Hello and welcome to the Storyboard Show, the show where we like to listen to people's stories and also look at how these can help us in business as well. With me this week is John Gilbert, as it has been on a few other episodes as well. And we're talking about campaigns today, but specifically video case studies within campaigns.
Yep, absolutely.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about like what you guys have been doing and what we've been doing?
Yeah, so we picked this as a topic because we've been working on a few campaigns really, which are of quite a sensitive nature, and a good way for us to get that point across is actually to involve people who've experienced this themselves or a loved one has experienced it, so that we can get it from their perspective.
Excellent. And so specifically, why use video stuff then? And how does it help the actual campaign?
I think what a video case study does is it gives you that real level of authenticity for something. So very recently, what we've been working on, two campaigns. One is around lung cancer. So you have people talking about their experiences, whether they've picked up lung cancer themselves and they've survived that, or perhaps if they've lost somebody, unfortunately, to it as well, and being able to do that level of reflection. And the one that we're going to be working on shortly is around mental health, maternal mental health, so in prenatal and postnatal stage again as well, which is obviously the lady or the partner, they're talking about a really tough time to do that as well. So I think that them putting it into their words is going to be a way that resonates with people much better than the NHS saying, these are the list of symptoms, this is how it works, and like in quite a robotic way, because it, like we always say on the Storyboard Show, it's about that those stories are really going to connect with people in a way that means a lot more.
That's it, I suppose, isn't it? It's about connecting, so it makes it a lot more personal. You can relate to these people, and it.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I suppose the alternative would be you and I go and learn everything we can about lung cancer or perinatal mental health, and then just turn the camera on and do something like this and talk about it. But it's just not going to be as engaging as somebody who can actually tell that emotional perspective and take it on their journey. They'll be able to say things that have got that much deeper meaning of authenticity better than anything we can script. You can tell something when you're watching it, you can look into that person's eyes and you can pick up all those subconscious kind of movements in their face and their body language that really tells you what it means to someone in that way that's going to be like, sends a shiver down your spine and because it impacts on you much more likely to remember the messages.
Absolutely, yeah. I suppose we had Matt Sutton in, didn't we, a few weeks ago, talking to us about voiceovers and storytelling. And that's great for certain films, for certain things, but I suppose this one, you really want that personal connection and like you say, you want to be able to look into the person's eyes, and it's more like a documentary, I suppose, isn't it? But it's talking to people.
Yeah.
Excellent. And so then once these videos are out, then from a campaign point of view, then how do you guys sort of look at how well these have done and what the reaction to them is?
Yeah, of course. If I may just take it back a couple of steps, really. Obviously, one of the things about a case study is it's very personal to them. So you have to really communicate it way in advance and very clearly and very honestly with your participant for that as well. So that's where you would talk about the purpose of your campaign. So if you're trying to raise awareness, who we're trying to raise awareness with, if we're trying to change behaviours and attitudes, what is the message for that as well? So they fully understand what it's about. So that at no point when you've asked somebody to come in and talk about what could be a major or traumatic experience of life, does it feel as though you're using them, or they might think, well, hang on a minute, I'm telling my personal story, but what's it for? So being upfront is really important and building that rapport with people, because they have to trust you. Because if they're in a situation that they may never have been in before, with a camera on and somebody's asking them questions about this major point that's happened in their lives as well. So you've got to build that, and part of that, to answer your question, is to be really clear with people about how you're going to use that in the form of a campaign. So recently we've produced things for the lung cancer launch, which we did last week. We have these personal stories in there that have been used on our website, through our social media, but also have been picked up by traditional media. So excerpts have been used on the radio, footage that's been filmed in this very studio we saw on BBC Look North. Again, it's because they quite like the style of that, and I guess we'll talk a bit more about the practical side of it in part two of this discussion. But really, once you've got there and you've got this piece of content that tells you the story in a really powerful way, the marketer is like that. It's like gold dust. And that's why I think it's really powerful to doing a video case study, because if you think about it, you've got several things there, assets that you can work with. You've got a video, you've got a long form video for discussion. You will edit it down in so that we've got short, snappier kind of messages that'll be used in social media. If we've got decent quality of sound on there, which we would do, we could podcast it if we wanted to. We could transcribe elements of it as well. So you've got short articles, quotes for websites and so on as well. And it's so much better every single time than just giving it to a copywriter. And because it will, as I say, as good as that copywriter will be, they will never be as authentic as a real person talking about their real experience.
It's a really interesting point that you bring up there, and I know we're going to talk more about it in the second part of this as well, but it's a really interesting point you make, about the full process. You've got to have the person on board. That's a really, really good point, because like you say, it's marketing gold dust. It's wonderful for a marketer to be able to work with things like this. However, what you don't want to do is feel like you're using the person, because quite a lot of the time it's quite a sensitive subject, so you've got to be really on the ball with that, really, haven't you?
Yeah, and it sounds really easy to say this, but the way you do that is just by being open and honest and upfront with people.
Absolutely,
and let them tell their story. Don't just lead them down a particular path that you want to get, so you get your snappy sound. Let them tell the story. They'll probably give you that anyway in terms of the content. So to think in a very practical term, the campaign films that we've made, I've had at least 3 conversations with people before we switch the camera on, and it's about being able to build that, because they're going to be nervous, they're going to be really aware of all the words they say, and thinking about, well, people in my family are going to hear this and what they're going to think to it, so they're going to be much more sensitive to it than you would in a normal day-to-day discussion. So you've got to help them relax.
And I suppose it's about remembering as well, that people do have stories to tell, and most of the time then those stories are sort of, really interesting stories without you having to sort of dress it up and things like that. So it's about, like you say, let them tell their story and let them say what they want to say, because like you said, they're probably nervous, but also they'll have a story to tell, and the reason they're there is they want to tell that story.
Yeah, absolutely, and they've got to agree to do it. And there's certain practical things that you can do as well. Again, not to encroach too much on part 2 of this, but is that right to withdraw at any point? Because it's a case study. And we have GDPR now, which means that people will sign something that says I'm giving permission for my footage to be used for a particular period of time. Actually, what we say is, because the internet is the way it is, once we put something out there, we actually can't give a guarantee for when that's going to go down. It's going to be on YouTube, so people could download it and use it and so on as well. So that is, you've got to make people aware of that. And then actually, if they say something, they go, I don't want to use that bit, I wish I'd not said that as well, they can take it out as well. So it's got to be about that trust. We never want to exploit people, but actually, so long as that ethos is there, and I talk about this a real lot, human beings get a really bad rap for what we do, right? Okay, but one of the things that really reassures me is for somebody to take a painful experience and be able to share that with others for no personal gain, and the only gain that will come from that is that it might help somebody else who could go through that or is going through a similar situation, will connect with it, find that level of empathy, and therefore feel better about themselves. For them to do all of that with no personal gain as well, I'd take my hat off to them. And it's one of the most inspiring parts of my job, and I'm sure you'd agree. I think when they do that, you just think, wow, and as you say, just allowing someone to tell the story.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like I mean, you've more or less said it, but it's about letting them know, not just making them think, but letting them know that they're a part of this, and they're pretty much the most important part of this. It's their story, it's their film, and they should be able to, direct, produce it, and, really help out with that sort of, on a...
Well, absolutely, yeah. I mean, we're not making it obviously like a biopic movie or anything that as well. But yeah, the way that comes across is you're always going to, with anything, if you're going to co-produce it with somebody, it's going to be better. It doesn't mean that you give them complete editorial control, but nor does it mean you retain all complete editorial. It's about that kind of that sharing of that exchange of what is the best way to get these points across.
Superb. Well, thanks ever so much, John. I think in the next part of this, we're going to be discussing some more practical elements of the filming and, ways to make people feel less worried and, just ways to film it, really. And we're going to talk a bit more about that. Thanks very much. See you next week.
Thank you.